Okay, we're back, and it's been a while since we've had our good friend Bill Gallagher in the studio with us today. He heads up an organization called TeamWorks, where he goes into organizations and helps them get along and maximize their output. And today we're dealing with a very interesting subject, dealing with blended families. By the way, Bill's website is teamworks with a -works.com, teamworks-works.com. He can come to your ministry, your company, and straighten you out. Kind of, sort of.
Sincere attempt, at least.
All right. So, I mean, let's say you have communication problems, you have personality problems,
Trust
you've got
issues.
atmosphere problems. What else?
Trust issues.
Trust issues.
Adapting to change.
Change issues.
Yeah.
All of that.
Quite a few.
You've worked with some notable organizations.
Yes, I do work with Providence. I've in and out of local government agencies, which might be of interest to you.
No, well, I want
Do
to
you think
avoid those.
local government agencies can use encouragement?
Well, they can use encouragement, but they just need to do away with the meetings and the memos. I mean, they're too bureaucratic.
Yes.
You know, too many rules and regulations.
You know, since we take ourselves wherever we go, all organizations can use encouragement, and my focus, of course, is relationships in the workplace. You know, corporate America now says that attitude ranks higher than technical skills.
Really?
People are usually fired because of a bad attitude and given promotions because of a good one. So attitude has now trumped clinical, technical, hard skills.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that. All right, today we want to deal with something. By the way, you're going to be doing a blended family workshop. Let me give this to all of you. Coming up Saturday, November 14th, though it's 1 week from this coming Saturday, and it'll be held at Trail Christian Fellowship. This is a must-attend if you are a blended family. Okay, or going to become a blended family. It's from 9 until noon, Saturday, November 14th. And do they have to sign up? Should they call ahead?
Yeah, they can.
$25 a couple. That's cheap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we wouldn't turn anyone away. We have a scholarship fund as well. So.
All right. You have child care.
It's 2
and
weeks from
refreshment.
Saturday, Perry.
2 weeks
on the 14th.
from Saturday. Oh, that's right. My brain. Okay. 2 weeks from Saturday, November 14th, Trail Christian Fellowship. Give them a call out there. And he quotes here our other good friend, Dr. Kevin Lehman. He says, families don't blend, they collide.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know, I asked a question. I was promoting you on the air earlier today, and I said, okay, maybe families ought to take the profile test before they blend.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then the next question is, because it really puts a burden on the two that have fallen in love in spite of their children.
Yes.
As to whether or not they're going to put themselves first or their children first.
Yeah, that is always the question when you're bringing all these different lives together. And it's really interesting, Perry, because, you know, by the way, I'm on 2 tracks. God put me on my own company, the TeamWorks track, but I've been a pastoral counselor for 35 years. I'm at a trail. And I talk about this all the time with people that are considering second, third marriages, blending children now. It's not natural. It's not natural. You know, as a biblical counselor, of course, I uphold God's word. It is in the area of priorities. God first, your spouse second, your children third, occupation somewhere down here. Not that way. It's not that clean in a blended family or second, third marriage. The children were there first. So let's say you have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old child. You're going to get married. The person you're going to marry, you've known a year. Simple math. You've been with your children 8 years. You've known this person a year. You're bonded to your children. It's not that clean. So what I say is, in terms of priority, sometimes your spouse is first, sometimes your children are first. And as the years go on, it changes. Then your children take more center. I mean, your spouse takes more center stage. But initially, if someone, a new married partner, comes in and says, I'm to be treated above the kids, they're headed for disaster. And a spouse should never make their spouse choose between the two of them early on, ever.
Well, we could end the show right there.
Okay,
we're done.
thank you.
We are done. We're done. We have nothing more to talk about. Call Bill out at Trail Christian Fellowship and argue that point with him. That is so brilliant. That's well said. That's it in a nutshell.
You know, I mean,
but
at
we
first,
proceed anyway. I mean, all of a sudden, emotions and heat takes over.
Simple math, Perry. Simple math. And then in terms of inheritance, so let's say you have a living trust already set for your children and grandchildren.
Right.
Then you marry this other person who also has a will or a living trust. Okay. You've been saving for your children 5, 10, 15 years, and now you're married. Now what do? Do you automatically open that up to the other family? Jim Smith, who used to be that living trust attorney, gave me the best advice I've ever had in terms of blending families.
Yeah.
He said, do nothing for the first 5 years and then make necessary changes.
Good advice.
Yeah. So
don't change your trust, don't change your will.
Yeah, and then there's several complications. I mean, the Lord does many wonderful things in a blended family, but one of the complications is now during the holidays. That's why I'm doing it now. It's close to the holidays. Now we have potentially 4 families for those children to have to be involved with. 4 sets of families.
All right, I've made a statement, and you tell me if I'm wrong, only because as a pastoral counselor, I will admit that's a role that I get involved in, but don't call me, call him, or call Patrick Doyle. Don't call me, okay? But I've learned something here. Kids do not survive a divorce.
Perry,
They just don't, and you have to figure out a way to put them first. Am I right or wrong?
100%. Usually, unless there's barring heavy duty physical abuse or drug use or perversion,
Right.
children never ask for a divorce.
No.
Nor do they ask for remarriage. So when you get remarried and you bring these kids together, it is a double loss for them right out of the chute. A double loss.
So somebody's got to be the adult here.
Somebody's got to be the adult, and it should be the parents, of course, the step parent and the parent.
Yeah, because I have counseled couples, and you have to by far more than I, and I come to the conclusion they can try to convince me all day long and themselves that kids are resilient and this will work out just fine. But it'll show up somewhere between 15 and 21, and are you prepared for that?
Yeah, it is very, very complicated. Here's the other thing. I have a friend, he's born on the same day as I was, we're the same age, of course, and he told me at 15, his parents got divorced.
Oh boy.
His biological mother never remarried, but his father did and was married 30 years, and then his stepmother died. At the age of 45, he said, Bill, I kid you not, the first thing that ran through my mind at 45 is when my parents get back together. That never dies in a child. So, you know, to bring them into the situation, you're swimming upstream to start with. Now, it's not all dark. I mean, there's wonderful things the Lord can do, but it is not natural. It's not natural.
You're sitting down with a couple. The marriage is over, and I think there has to be a fairly good grieving time on everybody's part to let that really get behind them, right?
Ideally.
And what would you suggest that time is?
Well, let me just give you a stat that I find pretty accurate. People that get remarried within 2 years of the divorce, it is stated that 87%, 9 out of 10, get divorced again. 9 out of 10 within the first 2 years.
And the reason is?
Well, first of all, it takes a couple years to grieve, at least, depending on how close you were and how long you were married. At least, they say 2 to 6 years to grieve.
No matter if there was anger involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it takes a couple of years to finally find out where you went wrong in the marriage, because it's never all about the other person. Ever. Ever. Yeah. So a couple of years just to grieve, and then if it's with kids, yeah, it takes a long time.
Okay, so if you're counseling a couple and they really, I mean, I don't know what you look for as to whether or not this blended family is going to work. What do you look for? I mean, if they come to you, we want to do this right, we eventually want to get married, what do you tell them?
I look for the wisdom of how long they're willing to pace this and not speed it up. They got to slow down the train. I look for, of course, if they're Christians, the willingness to stay pure, the willingness to go home every night, not move in. You see, especially in a nasty divorce, let's say one of the spouses wigs out and leaves and is in a midlife or has an affair or whatever, 75%. causes for divorce. And then you have the broken-hearted spouse that's left behind. At that point, that is the only stable adult in that child's life. You must not wig out and spin out into a relationship. They need you. You're the anchor of their future. So that's why it's pacing yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't go out on a date. It doesn't mean, I had a friend, she was going to Applegate at one point, and they had a little women's group. She had gone through divorce. She had 2 young, lovely sons. And they kind of had a pact, these women together, that if you meet a man and you go out on a date, do not introduce that potential for 6 months to your children. Because you bring them into your home and then it's in and out and it doesn't work. You talk about setting them up for confusion and insecurity. So I would tell them to pace themselves, to be very, very wise, to do it God's way. Get counseling, premarital counseling, so they don't do a do-over.
Okay, but this couple's still sitting in front of you. How would you examine them? I mean, if I don't know how much time, and I don't know the circumstances. It could be one came out of a divorce where there was unfaithfulness. It could have come out of a divorce where they just flat couldn't get along. The compatibility was on the floor.
Well,
it
first
could be various reasons, but here they are now. You got this new couple in front of you.
Okay, I first would analyze the nature of their last marriage, why they got divorced. And immediately on the screen of my mind, I'm checking to see if they got divorced for biblical reasons or not, which comes down to heavy duty, immorality, unfaithfulness, Jesus would call it, and desertion. So I'm on the screen of my mind, I'm checking to see the motivations, the background by which they got divorced to begin with, because if they got divorced for any lame, unbiblical reasons, I'm not going to encourage them to jump into a new relationship. I want to know if the last broken one can be fixed yet. So I want to find out why first. Then I do the personality profile. You ever hear that? I do the personality profile to see, what their temperament is and,
Red, blue, green, pink, orange, black.
There you go. So I want to do that. I want to see what their temperament is. I want to know what their walk with Christ is. I want to know how they were raised. I want to know what their communication style is. How do they fight? Do they fight fair? I want to know the nature of their children. What do the children feel about this new relationship? How old are the children? It seems like the younger the children, sometimes the cleaner the blending is. When they get up to the adolescent years,
I will agree with that.
You better get ready for World War III.
Do you interview the children?
I haven't been asked to do that a lot.
Would you?
Oh, I would love to. I usually have them in after the fact. And only 2 times as a pastoral counselor in 35 years, only 2 times have I met with 2 divorced parents that are now remarried who have come to my office by themselves and in some cases with their kids, still wanting to do what's best for their kids, and they're already divorced. I've only had that happen 2 times. 2 of the wisest couples I've ever met. That although they have their separate families, we still are the ones that have the most powerful voice in these children's life, not the step-parent. Okay. And can you help us come to some kind of resolution?
All right. I want to take a break when we come back. I don't think we think that we're just putting the kids into a party.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact there's nothing biological going on here, and how do you protect the innocence of each side? All of a sudden they're running around their skivvies. Is that a good thing to do?
Yeah, there's a lot of different complications.
There's a lot of complications here. So I want you to kind of jump in on what parents, if they're going to do this, what should they be looking out for their children, and who discipline? Oh, man,
we'll talk about all that. The good news is God can restore these lives, the lives of 2 broken families, but there are a ton of areas they must be aware of, or it could be disastrous.
All right, this is all going to show up if you want to take a seminar on this coming up Saturday, November 14th out at Trail, 9 to noon. You may want to contact the church out there and get registered, and much needed and good advice. We'll be right back with Bill Gallagher.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact not only in our community, but around the world. It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, theDove.us.
Okay, we're back, and with us today is Bill Gallagher. He heads up a company called Teamworks, and he also does pastoral counseling. He's also associate pastor at Trail Christian Fellowship. And he'll be doing a blended family workshop coming up November 14th. It's a Saturday, so 2 weeks from this Saturday. It'll be out at Trail from 9 until noon. You may want to call and register. There is a $25 per couple charge for that, but there's also a special fund in case you can't afford that. I would suggest if you are in a blended family, about to enter a blended family, you got problems within the blended family, this is a must attend. And so mark that down on your calendar, November 14th. As you can tell, the subject's by far bigger than the time we can give it today. I
like to say, Perry, too, excuse me, I'm also a survivor of a blended family.
Well,
so it can be done.
I was going to ask you about that.
Well,
I should have asked you before the break. Can I go there?
Please.
Okay. All right. So you went through a divorce as a pastor.
14 years ago, unwanted, most tragic thing I've ever gone through in my life.
Okay. And it took a while, huh?
Took a while. Yeah, 14 years. The mother of my children, I'm happy to say, and I are on good speaking terms and civil, and so a lot of that hurt's gone now. It's way gone. But remarried, my wife Jenny, been married for 11 and a half years. As you told me from day one, I married up and she just got married. So she reminds me of that to this day.
Yeah, well, it's true. When I met Jenny, I thought, well, this is what Bill needs, whether he likes it or not.
And the thing is, she brought in two daughters. Yeah. I'm going to say 11 and 16, and my youngest son was 10, and I had two already gone. And what I can say about that is that when we came back from our lovely honeymoon, the honeymoon was over.
Really?
Instant family.
Instant family.
We came home to 3 adolescent and teenage kids.
My stars. Just go in with the fire hose and blow it all up.
Oh, unbelievable.
So, obviously from this you learned some things.
A lot. That's why I do this workshop, because I want to help.
Okay. So, you come home from the honeymoon, instant family, and you deal with the subject of discipline and love.
Yes.
Do you love your new spouse's children as much as you love your own?
Never. I shouldn't say that. I am going to say, it's kind of like, thanks, Pastor. That's great counsel. I want to say, it is, I'm going to say, as close to impossible as possible to love your spouse's children with the same force and blind spots that you love yours. Now, if you marry someone, you bring children in, you marry someone that doesn't have kids, it's a lot easier.
Okay.
But once you have your own, I've never seen it. I've never seen it done.
Okay, so what do you say there?
Well, I mean, I think awareness is huge, and you know, this is one thing that God does through two broken families, is He teaches you a depth of love that you've never gone to before. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, if you marry and you go into a home and your spouse's child never wanted the marriage to begin with, you're swimming upstream from day one. Yeah. And then when they get into the teenage years, you're not my father, you're not my mother, and highly disrespectful, and you got to love that child. So it's not even, and the thing that I found in being married in a blended family was her daughter could mess up with anything. It could be come home late, the dishes, whatever it is, not cleaning her room. And if my son did the same thing, I would find more grace for him than I would her over the same issue. It's just, the biggest problem in a blended family is you cannot love your stepchildren to the same degree in your heart. Now, you might be able to show up, and the Lord wants you to learn how to love them consistently. But inside, no way.
So the subject of adoption comes in here, but that's for another day.
That's another day, and because if you adopt, that's kind of like, that is your baby. I mean, that's your baby. There are no other children. You know, that's your baby.
Yeah.
So that's a little different.
So where does discipline come in?
Well, you know, Dr. Kevin Lehman said it, in every book you read on blended family says the same thing. Every single book. At least for the first couple of years, I'd like to qualify it by saying that. It is to be the biological parent to do the discipline, period. Now, I did a couple of programs on KDove years ago, before I even went through the divorce, and I had two irate stepfathers said, no way. She won't do it. I'm stepping in and cleaning house. I go, no, you're not going to clean house. You're going to make a messier house. That stepchild doesn't want the other parent disciplining them at all. So they have to go in the back room, talk it out. Now, here's the thing, though. The step-parent comes in with the fresher eyes. Leave it up to a step-parent to tell the biological parent where they're blowing it, and they're generally right all the time. All the time. So I think I think the biological parent needs to listen to the step-parent, and I think the step-parent needs to get out of the way. And they need to work it out by themselves in the other room, out of earshot, and come up with a discipline plan.
Because the other overriding factor here is you've got the divorced spouse still speaking into that child's life. And the child then has the opportunity to choose who they're going to respond to. And they usually go to the easiest one, to the one who won't be so strict.
Yeah. Well, actually, they gravitate more towards the biological one. But as time goes on, you know, in every little...
What I'm saying is that if the husband's ex-wife is speaking into the children's life too, that could create additional problems, because they may say, well, your dad's being too strict on that. I don't think he's right on that. Now, what does the kid do?
Yeah. Well, as my youngest son got a little bit older, when he got in the teen years, you know, anytime either I or his stepmother, you know, said, we're not going to buy you a cell phone right now. At 12 years old, although they have him at 8 now. Guess what he did? He go to his mother's house. She'd buy him a cell phone.
Yeah, so what'd you do?
Well, there's nothing you can do. Just say that you're not going to use it in my house. I said you couldn't have one. You want them got over there. Yeah. So it really helps for, that's why it helps to keep civility as much as possible with your ex-spouse, because you know, the kids always have to transition, unless they're, you know, 100% in custody, 2 homes. You have 2 homes, 2 sets of clothes, 2 bedrooms, 2 sets of rules. So it really helps for the divorced parents to be on the same page as much as possible.
If possible.
If possible.
So, in general, what are some mistakes to avoid if you're going to be blending a family?
Well, I've already mentioned it earlier. Never make your spouse choose between you and their child. Unless you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years into it. I'm talking first few years. Never do that. That's a lose-lose. You'll lose every time.
Okay.
And if first couple years you do choose your spouse over your child, you've lost that child. You've lost a child. So you need wisdom. Second one is, don't change the routine for each child. For example, my wife had her 2 daughters there 100%. And then my son was 50%. In, out, in, out. Well, the girls really got upset because, you know, they have to vacuum the house and they have to help with this and they have to, and then my little princess son, my prince son comes in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And doesn't do anything.
And, well, I mean, and I tried to, I said, to Jenny, it's simple math. I mean, they live here 7 days, he's here 3. Does he have to vacuum the whole house? He's been here 3. And the answer was yes, of course. And so we go back and forth and back and forth. So I would say keep routines the same, give appropriate chores the same. If the curfew's 9 o'clock for that child and they're both 15, 16 years old, then the curfew's 9 o'clock for the other one.
Have you experienced that blended children get along? Do they become friends? Is there a brother-sister relationship that can develop?
I think one of the most miraculous things in our home was that I can't count on one hand the disagreements my son had with my stepdaughter, Jenny's daughter. They were 1 year apart. I can't count on one hand in 7 years. They were together 7 years and they moved out. And thank God for that, because our biggest deal, we couldn't have handled that. Our biggest deal was, you know, having blind spots for our own kids and working through that stress. But if our kids were having problems on top of that, I don't know what we would have done.
All right, so you had a boy and 2 girls. How do you protect dignity and privacy?
Well, I mean, it's appropriate. I mean, you know, her daughters would get ready with her in the morning when she was a single parent.
Yeah.
Now I show up, it's going, we don't think so.
Yeah.
You know, you got a bathroom, we got a bath. You know, I think it's just courtesy. I think it's wisdom.
Yeah.
And very, very important to do that. They all had their own rooms.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to run out of time. We've only got about a minute and a half left, but all that sounds pretty gloomy. There's got to be some bright spots here.
Oh, very, very. As I said earlier, one of the brightest spots of all is to watch the hand of God bring 2 broken families, dysfunctional broken, as he did with Joseph's family in Genesis 12, which was probably the most, and bring healing and friendship. Takes years, though. Takes years. Secondly, I think we become much more balanced parents because the step parent has fresh eyes, and if we'll listen to them, they'll give us great advice on how to be a much more balanced parent. Because we're usually out of balance because we overcompensate for the divorce.
Okay.
And lastly, the Lord uses always, in any family, the pain in our life to change us from within. So there's great outcomes, but boy, do we need wisdom from the Lord.
And the bottom line here is I think it's almost impossible without God.
I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, so God is the factor.
He is always the factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me say to our viewers and listeners, Bill's going to be holding a blended family workshop coming up Saturday, November 14th at Trail Christian Fellowship. You can call the church out there to get registered, $25 per couple, but there is a scholarship fund. Go. You're going to learn a lot. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Good seeing you again, Perry.
Thanks for shaking things up. I'll give you out his private phone number later.
Very good.
Oh, that was excellent.
Well, there's some